talk to me about this matchup. We're going to start with Matti Kuisma on the Jeskai Mutate deck, which we saw a lot of yesterday.
Yeah, Maria, this deck is just beautiful. We saw it start popping up in the Strixhaven Championship. One of the big players of it, Matti Kuisma, at that event, top 8'd with this Jeskai Mutate deck, which started his run to the Challenger Gauntlet and now here to the Rivals Gauntlet. This deck is just a true combo deck, but it has a very resilient control game plan. We see a ton of removal in those Fire Prophecies, Cinderclasm. One of the big upsides of the deck being able to play a full 4 copies of Spikefield Hazard. And Spikefield Hazard does it all in this deck. It's a land, it's a removal spell, and one of the coolest things we saw yesterday, with a Goldspan Dragon, it can even act as a pseudo ritual by targeting your own Goldspan Dragon to make a treasure that makes an extra mana. So the number of cool things that this deck is putting together all in one package in order to execute its game plan is unlike anything we've seen in Standard of recent times.
Yeah, I mean, the way you talk about this deck, Monty, makes it sound kind of like a work of art. Very elegant deck design here with Jeskai Mutate. Let's take a look at Louis Samuel Deltour's list, Dimir Rogues. Talk to me about how this deck gets it done.
Well, Maria, if this list looks familiar, that's because it is. Louis tested with Jean-Emmanuel Deprat, who qualified for the World Championship yesterday, playing the same Rogues build. So Louis definitely happy for his teammate, but looking to join him. And Rogues, it's a deck we've seen in Standard for quite a while now. It's a very aggressive deck, but it has control elements. We see one of the best card advantage engines we've seen in a while with that Into the Story, combined with some of the early draw and being able to loop Merfolk Windrobber and Lurrus, the companion for this deck, and then just the cheap interaction. Drowning Lock as a split card counter spell / removal spell, it's just really unmatched in Standard. So the power of Rogues has been already on full display this weekend, and Louis not looking to stop that.
All right, so these two decks hitting in the ring. We've got Matti Kuisma, Louis Samuel Deltour on Rogues versus Jeskai Mutate. Which of these two decks do you like here in this matchup?
Well, Maria, Louis is 4-0 against Jeskai Mutate. Matti is 2-0 against Rogues. So one of these players is not going to be undefeated anymore. But I got to go with Matti. He says this is his favorite Standard deck he's ever played. He's a master with it. And I think he's got his eyes set on that top 8.
I'm sure he does. Let's take another look at our matchup here as we get ready to send it down to the feature match area with Riley and Corey for round 10 here at the Rivals Gauntlet.
Thanks very much, Maria. Coverage of round 10 begins now. Welcome to the feature match area for the first time today, my friends. Friday night, your host, joined by Corey Baumeister. And Corey, kicking things off, as we said, Jeskai Mutate and Rogues, a deck, a pairing that we've seen throughout the weekend here. And certainly the new Jeskai Mutate list, or I suppose it's not new, but the Jeskai Mutate list that has been doing so much work, particularly yesterday, has really turned some heads.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And been turning my head over and over. This deck is just a blast to watch perform. You know, I mean, it put on a show yesterday for us. Rogues did as well. So seeing this matchup again to start our morning is a treat, I must say.
Rogues, on the other hand, I mean, this deck has been around for a long time, ever since Battle for Zendikar. Sorry, Battle for Zendikar. Oops. Sorry, we've been to Zendikar so many times, mate. But no, of course, the most recent Zendikar set was the one that gave us all these rogues, the Merfolk Windrobbers, the Soaring Thought Thieves, and what have you. But really, the backbone of the deck is Throne of Eldraine cards. We see a couple of them there. Drown in the Loch, 2 copies of that card. And, of course, the Into the Story. And I guess this is the last hurrah, really, for a deck like Rogues, which I'm not anticipating will have much to say for itself past rotation.
Yeah, it would need a lot of help from this Innistrad set coming out to be able to stay in its current form. So yeah, it's the farewell tour, if you will.
So opening things up now with a Thieves Guild Enforcer is Louis Samuel Deltour. Finds a 3rd land off the top just in the nick of time. He's going to play probably a Merfolk Windrobber here. This gives the opportunity to keep up a Drown, and given that there is that Enforcer already, I think, 6 cards in the bin, 1 short of the magic number 7. But this is going to be more than enough to make sure those drowns are ready to go at a moment's notice.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of the draw that you want from the Rogues deck, just to be able to get a couple threats down, then back it all up with some Drown in the Locks. This is kind of reminding me of John Emmanuel Duprat's draw in the very last game we saw yesterday. Maybe not quite as explosive with the double Thieves Guild Enforcer, but this is what you want to be doing. And these are some of the really insane draws that you have from Rogues, is get the pressure down and then back it up. And it just puts these Jeskai Mutate decks, especially in game one, when you don't have a bunch of escape cards and stuff, just really nothing you can do to kind of fight against this.
Yeah, classic tempo strategy, stick some early threats and then protect them with interaction. And that's exactly what Deltour is attempting to do here. You can see ready to snap off that Drown the Lock versus more or less anything, and is going to do it here without taking too much time to think about it. I think it was, what was it, a shock and a looting there with the mode selected, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to resolve in any case. All right, another land here. Very nice for Deltour. He's continued to hit his straps. And does it untapped as well, because that the Prismari command was cast during Deltour's upkeep.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able, if we didn't have the land number 4 for the second drown, you might be a little hesitant to make that play to be able to protect on your opponent's turn. But with having land 4, you got it all kind of wrapped up, and we're just seeing again Matti try to play spells on Luis's upkeep to try to tie up the mana. A really smart play.
This one's going to resolve. There is that drown, but obviously Deltour happy to sandbag that for perhaps a higher impact card. In comes Merfolk Windrobber. I imagine we'll see Lurrus added to the hand here.
Yeah, this is the nice spot where now you get to just put Lurrus into hand, still have Drown up for an important card like Goldspan Dragon, but with putting that treasure into play for Matti and having the dispute, it's on right now.
Yeah, this is going to work really well for the Finn here, as he has the response to Drown of the Lock to make sure that the dragon resolves. And this is a bit of a problem now for Deltour. He does have Power Word Kill to deal with the dragon, but he's taking 4 and it's generating a treasure, so it's paying for itself here, this dragon.
Yeah, and now we have Unsubstantiate and Disdainful Stroke. Disdainful Stroke in a Lurrus deck against a Lurrus deck is less to be desired, but that is into the story as the only target. But just to Unsubstantiate to protect this against any kind of removal spell like Heartless Act. Power Word Kill, not exactly what the doctor ordered against a dragon, but we're going to have to find something else there. But there's the end of the story with that Disdainful Stroke as an answer, though, isn't going to be great.
Really interesting draw here for Deltour. He fires it off, and really the only card he's got to worry about is the exact card in Kuisma's hand here. Devastating blow for Deltour as this into the story is struck away. He can cast I think he went to cast the Ruin Crab there. A bit of an optimistic attempt to cast it for 1 mana, get to mill away 3 cards. But Kuisma, things have lined up really nicely for him, and with a Cinderclasm off the top, not exactly what he wants to see, but still he can start to pull stuff together now, maybe mutate that Vadrock, flash something back from the yard, and all of a sudden Kuisma's off to the races.
Yeah, and they were both really talking about in their pregame interview about how this game 1 is heavily favored for Dimir Rogues because, to quote Matti, is just, I can't resolve anything game 1. But when you draw the one of Mystical Dispute that we kind of saw be an all-star yesterday, and you draw one of the one of the 2 Disdainful Strokes early, you actually have this playback. And if you can get something like this going, these are the games that you win from Jeskai Mutate game 1 against Rogues. So really impressive sequencing so far from Matti, where LSD had a ton of play and a great hand to start this off. So it really impressive work to put Matti in a position where he's ahead right now.
And this is why you put these cards in your deck, in situations like that. Oh, you're so lucky you drew that card. It was like, well, yeah. I mean, that's why I put it in my deck, so I draw it. Like, it's not rocket surgery, mate. So from this position here, you look at Kuisma and say, well, this is the reason. Even though you look at Disdainful Stroke, bad card in this matchup, it has its role to play. Only playing 1 copy Mystical Dispute, it's so you can snipe people like this, keep them honest. Deltour may be sitting there being like, there's only 1 copy. This will be fine. I'll be able to resolve this. No, not so. And now the Goldspan Dragon.
Rocket surgery?
Rockets. How else do you expect to make rockets?
That's a good point. I don't know why I question you at this point.
What, do you think you go to the rocket orchard and pluck them off the rocket trees? No, of course not.
Okay. Touche. You got me there, buddy.
All right, down comes Wind Robber once again from the Lurrus. We've seen this combination. It's a nice one too. Lurrus and Merfolk Wind Robber able to just cycle away the Wind Robber every turn, draw a card, bring it back, draw a card, bring it back.
And wow, this Cinderclasm is just going to actually be unreal here. Even if it's just nabbing Lurrus, that's just about all you can really hope for here. And without finding any answers to this is looking really, really good for Matti.
Vadrock, the play for the turn here. This effectively costs only 2 mana because, of course, the dragon will generate a treasure token once it's targeted by that Vadrock. So there it is, poops out another treasure, and Power Word Kill. Luis Samuel Deltour just looking at this card. I mean, it's such an effective...
Reading it one more time, yeah.
There are so many 1 and a black removal spells, or even black removal spells that have destroy target non-X riders attached to them. The classic Doomblade, destroy target non-black creature. Victim of Night, you can't use it to kill werewolves or vampires or whatever. This one, Power Word Kill, I mean, it's amongst the best, right? Like, it really is amongst the best because we don't often see huge numbers of angels, demons, devils, and dragons. But when you do, man, when your opponent's sitting there on a dragon, you got a Power Word Kill, geez, you wish it was a Doomblade. Geez, you wish it was a Heartless Act.
And I mean, that's the thing. Everybody knows Goldspan Dragon is one of the best creatures in Standard right now. So it is a very real cost to be playing this card instead of a bunch of Heartless Acts. But there's a lot of times when you can get counters on stuff as well that makes Heartless Act not as great as well. So you really do got to mix it up a bit. Yeah, so, as long as Matti doesn't put one of those Vadrocks over the Goldspan, which is a play you just don't do with this deck. So I think Matti will be okay to be taken down game 1 here.
I guess chop down maybe. Okay, I'll make it a Vadrock instead. But even so, here, look, this is a great spot here for Kuisma. He's managed to navigate himself into a game 1 victory in a matchup that I think most people broadly in agreement is pretty bad for Jeskai. And it all came down to those counter spells that he had. That's the point where that's the hinge upon which the game turned there, Corey. The fact that he was able to back up the action that he was putting on the table with the Mystical Dispute, with the Disdainful Stroke, both of those cards really putting in a shift there for the Finn.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the way that Matti was playing that, constantly pressuring Luis during his upkeep and forcing him to tap mana and then doing stuff during Matti's main phase if he came to that. Really playing it excellently, and it makes sense how both of these players are X and O in the matchups, but won't be after this match here.
No, one of them's got to go down here, of course. You can see the sideboarding decisions made there. Some significant changes for Kuisma as he looks to really reposition himself in this matchup. And Deltour moving off the mill plan. We've seen this happen before. In comes Skyclave Shade. In comes Cling to Dust, an escape card to counter the other escape cards. But Deltour looking to be a bit more proactive, a bit more aggressive, I guess you should say. Mill the Ruin Crab coming out for the Skyclave Shade so he can get in the front foot and start to get some damage in.
Yeah, kind of giving up on that way to really enable into the story quickly. And with the hand here from our Rogues player, it is very, very powerful, as in just great cards, but really needed that Wind Robber to be able to start enabling some of these Drawn in the Locks. As it stands now, it's going to be 2 mana, counter a 1-drop, unless Matti puts some Fabled Passages into the graveyard or something. So this hand needs a lot of help. It needs creatures and it needs land simultaneously. This is going to be a rough one.
Looks like we've got a slight desync here with Matti Kuisma's hand. Seems like he's a little bit ahead, but right now resolving that Maze Mine Tome is huge, particularly with so many lands in hand as well. I think he's got a Vadrock in there as well, but as I say, we do have a slight desync issue there with Matti Kuisma's hand, so I do apologise for that. There's the Vadrock. It's going to get countered by a Mystical Dispute here. Deltour happy enough to return the favour in countering a key card with a dispute, this time in game number 2.
And with that being said, Matti's hand is, of course, not great. That Tome is going to be doing some work here to be able to catch up, but the hand of 5 lands is some way to get a little caught up here from a Rogues player that's missing a bunch of land drops.
Yeah, Deltour's hand is, got a lot of action, but no way to cast it. And that's the problem, right? Like, you got to handle a handful of lands. You're like, oh, geez, this hand sucks. You got a handful of spells and no lands to cast. I'm like, man, this hand rules. If only I had the lands,
Exactly, yeah.
Funny old thing the way that we look at this. Anyway, here's a Maze Mind Tome activation. Now, Phoenix of Ash looks like it's going to be one of the draws here for Kuisma. But again, this does seem to be suffering from a slight desync issue. We do apologize for that once again.
Yeah, Phoenix is a big draw there. Even just next turn being able to go Phoenix in defense and then activate Tome as well. Even that is just a great play. Well, the land pickup was huge for Deltour.
Yeah, finding that third land, a key piece of this puzzle here. Kuisma now with a dragon in hand. Are we just going to see Mountain and then him go for it? It's a risky proposition
Probably
considering
not.
what's in, well, it's not only what we know to be in Deltour's hand, it's also the fact that, like, you don't just sit there against a Rogues play with 4 cards like, they've probably got nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
A much safer bet here, Corey.
No, I think our evaluation yesterday of they always have Drown in the lock is what I lean on a lot more than, they have nothing a large percentage of the time. But here's the gameplay that Matti wants to be enacting on game 2. It is just making sure to just play these escape cards over and over and over again and say, yeah, if you want to waste these premium removal spells like Drown in the lock, I'm just going to bring it back every single turn. And when you have a Tome where Matti is efficiently using all his mana as well, like gets to draw a card here, next turn gets to escape and then draw a card as well. It's really tough to keep up on resources from Deltour's side.
That's true. The other side of the coin here is that Deltour does have a respectable clock. He's going to sacrifice the Windrobber, finds the 4th land. That's key. He's got that into the story ready to go as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it fired off if Kuisma activates this Maze Mind Tome.
And from what we saw from Matti's hand before with just 3
you just can't
lands,
tap out though, can you?
I think you can. I think you have to. I think you have to into the story here. Wow, I'm pretty shocked by that as well.
I mean, like, it's so tough because if they untap Slammer Dragon, right?
Yeah,
with
that
you
is
having
true.
Disdainful Stroke in hand, you just feel like such a turkey.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And we've just seen it so many times. We're like, what's the worst that could happen if I give them 1 turn? It's like, well, you die. We saw.
I mean, that's it.
That is the worst. We saw
because
Jeskai
they play the dragon
just going off. Yeah.
Here's the thing with the dragon. I mean, we touched upon this yesterday. The fact that there are so many parallels between the 5-drop Teferi, 5-drop dragon, and cards like Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, cards like Nissa.
Or Nissa, yeah.
They play it right, and you're like, great. Here is a big sorcery speed 5-drop. This is a powerful card, right?
Yep.
And they are using their entire turn to cast it, and that gives me a turn to respond. No, because these cards, the 3 that we've talked about here, cost an effective 3. They cost 5 to come down, but then they leave with 2 mana up after they've resolved, which means that you've got negate, unsubstantiate, essence scatter, whatever it is, to protect your investment. And that's the key thing with Goldspan Dragon. And null, I mean, the most important card in Standard. And that's the key difference here, and something to keep in mind, is that, yes, technically speaking, Goldspan Dragon is a 5-drop, but it doesn't play like a 5-drop. The difference between a card like Goldspan Dragon and a card like, say, Elder Gargaroth, which is an actual 5-drop that costs 5 mana and then dies to Doomblade without anything that you can do about it. Very different experience. When you're casting Goldspan Dragon, they cast Doomblade and you can counter it.
Yeah, Elder Gargaroth is one of those cards that dominates post-board games, right? Like, it's just one of the best sideboard cards. Before Burning Hands came into play as well, it was a lot better.
Things, yeah.
It does change it a lot, but it was that card that you just bring in against creature decks and you just go over the top. The difference between that and Goldspan Dragon and Nissa and Teferi is those are main deck staples of formats versus insane key sideboard cards. So yeah, I think oh wow, that was a huge cling.
Yeah. Absolutely nuts here. This is fantastic here for Deltour, who goes into the story and then can resolve a cling to get rid of one of those Phoenixes. But he is now tapped out in the face of Matti Kuisma, who has got a full grip here, Corey. It's looking like a good opportunity for the Finn to get something going.
And I remember Goldspan Dragon hitting the hand right before we lost the hand there. So it's there. It is for sure there. We don't know the rest of the hand. And we're even seeing a scry here that definitely signals to me that we just need like one combo piece, right? One Vadrock, one Lord Drakis, one Prismari command if it's not already in the graveyard, something like that to just really win this game on the spot.
This scry says that you're either a long way behind and you're desperately looking for the thing that you need to get back in the game, or you're very, very close to winning on the spot, because you don't just scry away an extra. Like, you could draw a card with the Maze Mind Tome at some point. So this scry indicates, I think you're right, Corey, the sense that Kuisma is very, very close. See what he's got here. Deltour just kind of got to wait and sweat it out.
Yep, and we are at 11 with 2 Thieves Guild Enforcers. You know, this is a quick clock, and Goldspan Dragon does not really do a great amount of blocking towards these Thief Guilds. Phoenix of Ash would have, but that timely cling has really helped out Deltour. Now it's time. Let's see how much we got.
Here's the dragon. 4 mana available after it attacks, of course, because it creates that treasure token. And if Kuisma indeed is going to go off here, you know, this is one of those situations. Okay, it's just got a Fire Prophecy here to take care of the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Going to probably be able to loot or rummage something away.
We did rummage. So even if we have Lord Dracus here, we can return that Fire Prophecy, get another treasure, and then Fire Prophecy the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Right there, it's not comboing off, but it kind of looks like comboing off with that much value.
Yeah, and that's the play here. So Lord Dracus costing an effective 0 mana. It costs 2 mana to mutate. You can bring back, you get a treasure as a result of targeting the Goldspan Dragon. You can then bring back the Fire Prophecy, which you can then cast using that treasure here. And I think that Kuisma is just going to do it. Main phase, you know, he doesn't need to muck around. He doesn't need to play into counter spells. He doesn't need to risk anything further. He's already killed one of the Thieves Guild Enforcers. I think it's probably, unless he has something like a negate in hand to protect the Goldspan Dragon.
Yeah.
It depends on the contents of his hand, but there is at least some. Okay, he probably has some other form of interaction here, because otherwise he could just get rid of this 3/2. He can't block it effectively, even if his dragon is untapped.
Exactly. This screams to me negate, disdainful stroke, something like that. Otherwise, you would probably just Fire Prophecy right away. But yeah, interesting.
Okay. Well, all right. Kuisma taking a different line here, and it seems like it's going to pay off for him. There's not too much that Deltour can do to punish him. Does have that Soaring Thought Thief. Will cycle away. Merfolk win. Oh, well,
that was huge.
Okay,
that's what Deltour was looking for.
Well, Louis Samuel Deltour has got out the clown makeup. He's got out the wig and the red nose and the face paint and the big shoes, and he said, "Here, O'Reilly, pop these on, mate," because he's just made me look like an absolute clown. I'm here saying, yeah, Kuisma, nothing to worry about. Fires off that Fire Prophecy, not going to be punished for it, and then cycle the Merfolk Wind Robber into the story. All of a sudden, you're looking to hand 7 cards.
Yeah,
and things got a lot more difficult for Kuisma after that one.
I'm still pretty surprised Power Word Kill is still in the deck, to be honest. Like there's not many non-dragons that actually hit the battlefield.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's like Phoenix of Ash. That's the only thing that you're trying to kill, or a face-up Vadrock or something like that. So a little narrow, and it's gonna not look very good here. And look at these hands of blue Doomblades, aka Disdainful Stroke, that are not going to be doing too much here, as well as the Power Word Kill that also can't kill these Goldspan Dragons. So while that was a great draw from Deltour, this hand does not really interact with 2 Goldspan Dragons very profitably at all, especially with that Lord Dracus hitting that Exile Zone with Expressive Iteration. We're kind of just going off here.
Deltour with that into the story. I mean, not having 2 lands as well untapped in order to fire stuff off here in response to whatever Kuisma's trying to do. We're going to see a big mutate stack grown. You notice the crystals around the border of the Goldspan Dragon begin to increase. The more mutate cards are put underneath it. And now at the moment it's double Lord Dracus underneath it. Is that correct?
Double Lord Dracus underneath it. Yeah, it's getting a little bit of bling bling around it with all those crystals. And now you get to return 2 spells here. You can get back Expressive Iteration. You can get back another way to interact, maybe Unsubstantiate or something. And just say go if you need to, if you don't have Vadrock or anything like that.
Okay, gets back the 2 Expressive Iterations here. They're all good to cast with those treasures, of course.
Unless you're casting both, then it's not so bad. Double blue, double red, and kind of cast them both. But more than likely, with the way that Matti has been playing this game, there's some other piece of interaction there, whether it be Unsubstantiate, Negate, or Disdainful Stroke.
Yeah, definitely more value-oriented turn there for Kuisma. And this is a characteristic now of the Jeskai Mutate deck. You know, we've talked about it being something of a combo deck, and it certainly is.
Yep.
But that's not its primary game plan. This deck has got other dimensions to it, you know, and it's able to play a much more... I guess controlling is the way to put it, but it's able to play a longer game very effectively. It's not all in on this combo.
Yeah, definitely. I would categorize it very closely to just control combo instead of like aggro combo decks that we've seen, you know, in the past as well. And both of those styles of game plan, whenever you're playing either aggressive combo style decks or controlling combo style decks, are some of the most powerful decks in Magic, because you have this game plan where you're already able to do something effective, either control the battlefield or just attack your opponent and win the game that way. And then you have this robust, over the top, just end game that can just win out of nowhere, and it's really tough to play against, is the main thing.
Look at this. I mean, talk about sealing a game. Again, you don't need a combo when you've got double Goldspan Dragon getting across for 8 damage. Deltour on just 3, and Midnight Clock now to play.
Tick-tock.
All right.
The clock is on, and yeah, that's another element there. We haven't really seen that yesterday in the MPL Gauntlet. There was not many midnight clocks, but you know, having just a couple in this list, it looks like it's still extremely valuable against rogues. And look at how much mana Matti is generating. You can tick that clock up to 12 pretty quickly if Matti so chooses.
So Spikefield has it up top. This to me said that there's probably going to be a Prismari command coming soon as well, just to try to close this one out. And that'll do it as well. If Matti Kuisma can fire it off. Here it is as well. Yep, just a shock, which will go to the dome. There's going to be a Cling to Dust to gain a little bit of life with the Vadrock here. But I mean, is this ever resolving, this Cling to Dust?
Or even if it is, who cares, right? Like, yeah, sure, you can not die immediately to this Prismari command. These Goldspan Dragons still don't have an answer in sight for Deltour, so yeah, this one's over.
When you've got 1 and a blue, win the game, you're going to cast it, and Matti Kuisma improves to 8 and 2. A fantastic result for him. Wow. Again, heartbreak that he missed out on a chance at taking his career to the top level in a former tournament. But here now,